Hello to you all, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Luan, and I greet you from sunny South Africa. Cold today, but still sunny. I would love to know where you are watching from today, so please in the chat, drop us a message to tell us your name and where you're at. And while we wait for those names to come in, I will tell you a bit about myself. So as mentioned, my name is Luan, and I have been a teacher for over 13 years. I love my job. There is never a dull moment. But outside of being a teacher, I'm also a language practitioner and Cambridge examiner. So my love for the English language and all things TEFL started a long time ago. I have taught students from all walks of life, and it's been quite an amazing journey. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started with today's webinar. I will be going through a very specific topic. I will be going through the content at a pace. You're welcome to drop comments, but I will have a Q&A towards the end of the session, and this is where I will welcome you to include any questions that you may have. Remember that I'll only be answering questions related to today's topic. So if you do have any questions outside of today's topic, you're more than welcome to send them to tutor support, where our tutors, including myself, will be more than happy to assist you. So remember, we will have Q&A. I will be answering questions only related to today's webinar, but you're more than welcome to send any additional questions to tutor support. We will never leave you in the deep end without assisting you. So moving on to today's presentation, which is really quite exciting. And it's all about factors to consider when deciding on that dream job. So what I want you to do is just for a second, think about this dream job. What does it mean to you? Everyone has their own idea of what the perfect job is or the perfect location. I know I do. And usually it's a warm, sunny, tropical location. Some days it's snowy and there's a cabin involved. I'm beginning to think it's more like a holiday. But hey, that's what teaching abroad can be like. So your TEFL certificate will give you the opportunity to travel to countries and places that excite you, to teach people from diverse backgrounds, and to teach online from the comfort of your own home, wherever that may be, including that amazing tropical destination. All right, so before we get started with the nitty-gritty, let me say hello to some of our participants today. We have Nicholas from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello. Clayton from Malta. Welcome to you. Emma from the USA, and a happy Saturday to you too, Emma. And Asha from the USA too. We've got Gloria from British Columbia in Canada. John, hello from rainy Edinburgh. Same copy paste weather situation here today. And then we have Nikki from Manchester, UK, and Edith from Hungary. Welcome to you. Elena from Scotland. And then we've got CG from Pretoria, South Africa. Ciro from Patagonia. Paul. Sorry, it's Lynn Marie. Hello to you, Lynn Marie. And you are also you're a South African residing in New Zealand. Welcome to you too. So I hope you enjoy today's webinar, what we've prepared for you. Lots of pertinent questions and points that we're going to be answering today. And I'm very excited to be part of your journey. So let's get started. All right. And hello to you too, Ria, from Trinidad. All right. So when it comes to thinking about that perfect job, before you can start looking for your perfect job, there are a few questions that you need to ask yourself. And we've all been there. You need to visualize your perfect job. I want you to take just a second. I want you to think about this. Even if you're sitting there, I can't see you, no one can see you. So even if you want to close your eyes for a second, think about your perfect job. What does it look like? Where would you like to work? What do you expect your typical day to look like? And also, a very important question, what do you want to earn? What do you need from your job? What does it give you? And what are you giving at the end of the day? I need for you to visualize this because it becomes real. It's no longer an idea, it becomes a plan. So, yes, where would you like to work? What does a typical day look like? What do you need from your job? So, think about those things. All right. So, as mentioned, today's webinar is all about the factors that we need to consider. And depending on where you live and also what you want to do, there are a number of factors that you need to think about. And to help you, we've created 20 questions that will help you in that decision-making process. I wish this kind of help was available when I was thinking about that first job, because very often when you don't know enough, you just go for what's available without thinking and asking yourself, what do I want? Right. So that very first question, moving the slides along, is do I want to travel overseas? And I know that a lot of you think, well, that's a no-brainer when it comes to TEFL, because of course at the heart of TEFL lies travel. But you've got to ask yourself, do I want to travel overseas? Do I want the certificate to take me to another country? Then also think about what countries you would like to go to, and think about whether you would prefer to live in a big city or a small town or village. What attracts you to a place? And what is the cost of living in that country, town, or city? A very, very important factor to consider too. And then also, what is there to do, sorry, when you're not working? Because think about it, you're going there to experience more than just work. You're going to have free time. Even teachers get free time. So what is there to do when you're not working? Think about the culture. What do you already know about the culture? Can you speak the local language? Although this is not necessary to teach English, it is a good idea to try and learn some of the language while you're there or even before if you have that time. And how long do you want to stay in one place? You have people who like to commit for a year or longer, and then you have others who like to make it, just a couple of months before moving on to a new destination. And remember, you are a guest in a host country. So make the effort to learn about the culture and the local languages. Do you have dietary restrictions? Are you vegan, gluten free? Are there certain foods that you are not meant to eat? Can you source this type of food where you will be staying? So, another important factor to consider is the logistics. Are you traveling alone to another country, or are you traveling with your family or with a partner or with a friend? And also, will your job allow you to take young children? Is there an English speaking school nearby? And do you need to enroll your children in an online school? Are there any childcare facilities available? I know these are lots and lots of questions to think about. And if you look at the webinar from a different perspective, you might think it's quite overwhelming, but I think it's great because it gives you direction. You're making notes, you're writing things down, and all these things form a part of your decision making process. All right. And then we move on to a very, very important factor. And that is, I think I've jumped back a little bit there, but also to think about what attracts you to a place, what makes you want to go to another place. And also, as mentioned earlier, what is the cost of living in that place? Because if you think about it, the salaries sometimes look quite exorbitant when they're advertised. But what is the cost of living of where you'll be? And also, as we mentioned earlier, what can you do there when you're not working? You need some downtime. You want to explore. So it's best to do the research before you make that decision. And do you want to travel or do you want to work from home? Another important one. For me, initially, when I started, I wanted to work from home. That was my main deciding factor. But then the travel bug bit, and I had the ability to go overseas and to enjoy the process. So you've got to think about all those options too. All right. And then I jumped ahead a little bit, but we're right back on track. So now we've got to think about the nitty gritty, the slightly boring stuff, but so, so important. Think about contracts. When you think about contracts, think about the length of the contract. Most contracts out there are between 6 months and 12 months long. And although many of them are renewable, of course, you have to decide whether or not you want to stay on or not. So, as mentioned, 6 to 12 months, that's your average out there. A very important factor here is to read the contract very, very carefully and look for the following information: the number of face-to-face or online teaching hours per week. 20 classroom hours is equivalent maybe to a 40, 50-hour working week. Is admin and lesson preparation time paid for? So think about it, as teachers, a lot of our work is behind the scenes, either pre, as in lesson planning, or afterwards, marking and that sort of thing. Is that covered? And then also, do you have any extracurricular activities that you've got to maybe manage? Cultural activities, sports activities that you need to facilitate after lessons? And then also, do you teach from prepared materials and a syllabus, or do you need to create everything yourself? Because I think as you're sitting there, as you're listening to these different factors, I'm sure you can recognize that if someone gives you a syllabus and gives you all the prepared material, it greatly reduces your prep time as opposed to someone who has to start from scratch designing every lesson by themselves. There will be an impact there. So, again, something you need to look out for in the contract. And then also, do you get an assistant? Very often in countries, a teacher is assigned a classroom assistant. This is quite standard practice in lots of countries, but not everyone. So, another thing to explore is, will you be getting a classroom assistant who is familiar with the local language, for example? And that will also dictate in your preparation time in moving there, do I need to learn a little bit of the language or not? And then also, how many different class groups will you be teaching and what level? Will you be teaching an A1 beginner class, or will you be teaching a B2, which is an upper intermediate level? Will you be moving to different levels as your time goes on? Those are all little things that you have to look for in the contract and that you can potentially ask future employers about. And then also, how often will your lessons be observed? I know none of us like to be observed, or maybe not many of us like to be observed. I know I don't. I feel confident in my teaching abilities, maybe not so at the very beginning, but I still don't like being observed by a head teacher or some sort of manager. Note that this is absolutely normal. Quality control, I like to call it, but also growth and development for you. I know that I said that I don't like being observed, but I do appreciate the feedback I get afterwards, because it helps strengthen my lessons and my approach in the classroom. Makes you alert to things that you might not have been aware of before. And then also, will you have a mentor? This is something that I feel is quite important at the very beginning, because all of us need a little bit of guidance, particularly if we're the newbie. So will you have a mentor? Can you acquire one? Is there some kind of support structure at the school? And then also, could you potentially be moved to a different school during your contract? So lots of these language schools have different branches in different towns or different cities, and they might need a teacher in a different town, a different city, and that position might be open to you or part of your contract. So another thing to be aware of before you get your roots in there. All right. So, as mentioned, these are very important factors, and I hope that either you're taking notes or afterwards you can absolutely rewatch these webinars just in case you missed anything. All right. So, moving on. And then something else to consider is what your employer will provide. So there are benefits in lots of these contracts, and you've got to really look out for what they offer before you go out and find an apartment, before you go out and buy a car? What are the benefits offered by the employer? Is accommodation a part of the contract? And if so, for how long? Some employers will give you accommodation perhaps for the first 3 months, and thereafter you've got to find your own. And some accommodation is standard for the whole contract. Some of the accommodation is on the grounds of the school, some might be a little bit further away. Those are things to explore and to question once you know a little bit more. Also, language lessons. Will you receive any kind of language lesson? Will they help you a little bit when it comes to integrating into the culture, into the new barrier, the language barrier situation? What sort of support will you have, if any? Also, medical aid of some kind. So, very often when you travel, you've got to have some kind of travel/medical insurance. But a lot of employers also offer that. So, will your employer offer you some kind of medical aid or medical insurance included in the salary package or as an additional perk? Something important to consider. I mean, we consider these factors when we're looking at jobs in our hometowns, in our own cities, but I think even more so, they become more important when you're traveling. All right, and then also, is there a completion bonus? Are there return flights to the country and home? So I think that you've also got to realize that, there are lots of perks in these contracts, but I think that some of them have conditions. And the more you know about them, the better. Will you have leave? And also note that some countries teach on days that your country may ordinarily be shut down for the day. For example, on a weekend in South Africa, we don't have language lessons usually. Lots of schools close, most of our schools. Language schools are closed on the weekend. Language schools mostly have social things happening on the weekend, but the lessons are at a standstill until Monday. So what you've got to find out is what is the deal where you're going. Some countries teach on a Sunday, some countries teach on a Saturday, and will this be suitable for you? So something important to consider too. All right, and then when it comes to agencies, you've also, lots of us go through agencies to find positions or to help us get settled over there. And will the agency receive any kind of commission taken off your salary, or does the school pay for this? So this is also something that is stipulated from a very early stage in the process. And best it be something that you know about, something that is crystal clear. Will the agency take a once off your first paycheck, for example? Will it be a recurring fee that you pay to the agency? Or, as mentioned earlier, will the school be responsible for this? So something else to explore and to research. And then also, what are the advantages of using an agency? So people will say that it gives you a sense of security, they provide visa assistance very often, and your flights are paid for, etc. So these are not just a given, but they are possible perks. So find out what the agency offers, what is included, and what will be docked off your first salary or your first paycheck. All right. And now to maybe the more academic side of things. Right. So when it comes to the school itself, you've also got to do your homework. Think about it. When you go to a normal job interview, there's an expectation that you know a little something something about their company. And it's the same situation here. It's wise to know as much as you can about the school that you're applying to or you've potentially got a job. So where is the school? Because countries are big, towns are big, even villages are big. So where exactly is the school? And is it in a suitable location for you and what you want to achieve outside of just working? And how long has the school been open for? Is it a brand new outfit? Has it been going for many, many years? How many students does the school have? What courses does the school offer? Is it only language? Are there various other courses? Is it a normal academic school with lots of other subjects? And also, if it's a language center, how many other centers does this language center have? And then also, what do students say about it? I think that a nice reflection of what a school will treat you like is how the students feel when they're there. Are they happy? Do they feel heard? Do they feel respected? Because that very much often transfers into how the school treats their employees. And I think that's a great place to start. I love reading reviews. Of course, I am a bit discerning about which platforms I explore for reviews, and I think you need to be too. But do as much homework as you can. See, even teachers have homework. All right. So there are many, many types of jobs available, of course. So it's a good idea to spend a bit of time visualizing your ideal class. Are you comfortable teaching young children, or are you more comfortable teaching adults? I feel at this point that I enjoy both very much, but that becomes after years and years of teaching. You might know from the start which you prefer, or like me, you'll take a little bit of time and you'll discover what your passion is by the end of the process. So, also, language level. Do you feel comfortable teaching absolute beginners? Are you more comfortable teaching students at an intermediate level or advanced level students? I will tell you that at the beginning of my learning experience or teaching experience, shall I say, I was comfortable with beginners and elementary students. And I think it was mostly a confidence thing. I knew that they were at that level where they just wanted to learn the basics and they wouldn't ask me any questions I didn't know the answers to. And that's very often the experience with beginners or elementary students. And then as you go along, you gain your confidence and you get given higher levels. Other students like jumping in at the deep end and start, they enjoy teaching advanced learners from the start. I have colleagues who started with advanced levels. Nothing wrong with that. It's a perfectly amazing and exciting experience. And then also something else to visualize and to plan and to think about is, you know, what you feel comfortable in terms of culture, what sort of exchange do you like to have in the class, those boundaries that you set up. Those are all things that you've got to take into consideration. The school can very often advise on those things, but also you've got to think about what you want from the very beginning. And then the not so fun things, once again, admin, right? So you've got to think about all those documents that you've got to have in check before you travel. And of course, the good old passport is right at the very, very top. Make sure you've got your passport, that it's valid. And then also, lots of employers or countries that you're applying to require some kind of health certificate, vaccination passports, police checks. And then also, do your documents need to be certified in any way or notarized? So again, those are the nitty gritty, the document, the admin related things that you would have to do a little bit of research on. I'm not very good with admin. So before I go anywhere, this is a section that I really, really do need to spend quite a bit of time on. And also, I ask lots of questions related to this particular section because I can think about the destination I want to go to. I can make up my mind in with regard to what kind of culture and experience I want to have. But when it comes to admin, I need to ask questions, right? And then something important to consider is all about the money. So let's move on to the financial considerations. So, do you need a bank account? And where? Is your bank account at home all right, or do you need to open up a bank account in the country where you'll be staying? I guess this is also down to how long you'll be staying in your country of choice. But again, just find out beforehand what you need to do there. And also what taxes you need to pay. In South Africa, our taxes are like they're bound to where we are resident. So that's how we pay our taxes. But you'll be earning money from overseas. So of course you'll become a provisional taxpayer. That's the South African situation, but you need to explore what your tax implications are in your own country and moving abroad. And then also, do you need to buy any kind of insurance before you travel? So as you can see, there are, yes, quite a few things that we need to consider before going overseas. Lots and lots of questions to answer, but I think really, really useful stuff. Things that we often forget when planning a holiday. If you think about it, planning a holiday, and that's a short term. visit overseas, there are already lots and lots of questions that you need to ask yourself and that you need to research and that you need to find out. But when it comes to going overseas to live, even more so, you need to ask the right questions and you need to ask a lot of questions. Also, something that our course participants need to do is we've got a prospectus online, and it's the 2023 prospectus, and it's also got lots and lots of information about your journey abroad, different countries, a bit of information about what to do, where to work, how to find jobs, that sort of thing. So don't forget to download the prospectus before you finish today. Before you close your computer, download the prospectus if you have not done so. So, again, I think something important to remember is that yes, there are lots and lots of factors to consider before jumping on a plane and going to an amazing destination. And a bit of planning will ensure that you find the right job that is a good fit for you. I know that the world is a big place and there are lots and lots of places you'd like it. So think about creating sort of a list, a list of countries that you would like to explore from in terms of work, and then start your research from point number one and work your way down. Find a location that works for you and take into consideration every single point that we spoke about today. Ask lots of questions. Remember that, as mentioned earlier, the salaries look fantastic when they're advertised, but what you've got to bear in mind is that the cost of living in that particular country might be high too. How much will you pocket at the end of the day, and how much will you spend on your accommodation if it's not included? How much will you spend on your travel? How much will you spend on entertainment and sightseeing? All those are very important things to consider before choosing the big salary and the amazing destination. All right, so we've come to the end of the presentation section. And as I mentioned earlier, now we've got a lovely space for just Q&A. Now remember, I don't know everything about every country and every country's visa requirements, but I will try to assist where I can. But now is the time to either share some comments, you can even share your personal experiences that you've had, but also please, very importantly, the questions related to today's topic. Put them in the chat section of your screen, and I will try to get to as many of them as I possibly can today. Also remember that these slides are available. When I say these slides, this webinar will be available within a few days' time, and you can watch and revisit some of the points that you might have forgotten or that you may just have missed. Because yes, we covered a lot today. 20 questions is a lot to cover in half an hour. Right, so please now is the time to put your questions in the chat section of the screen and ask all those amazing questions that I know you've been sitting on for the past half an hour. All right. All right, so we've got a couple of questions already. And then also we've had a few other people joining since we started. And if I missed your name, I'm so sorry. But we've got Alicia from Birmingham. We've got Cole from Port Elizabeth, South Africa. Hello to you. Shan from Pretoria. Welcome to all of you. Right, so Clayton's asked us a question. As a South African living and working in Malta, would I need to invoice clients for all teaching jobs for purposes of provisional tax submissions? Right, so this would depend on whether the company that you're working for does any of your taxes for you or pays that over. If not, any work that you are taking over and above what gets covered, that you would have to probably invoice for so that you can actually claim for it as well. And when it comes to submitting returns and so on, you submit twice per year, of course, being a provisional taxpayer. So just find out what you can about that. But as mentioned, some countries will cover you in terms of tax, as in pay that monthly amount to the relevant organizations. But if not, anything over and above that would have to be documented and would have to be included in your returns. All right, I hope that helps. I also had to do quite a bit of research when it came to that sort of thing, because of course you want everything to be clear, crystal clear and standard. So yes, there's a lot of homework to be done when it comes to tax, and unfortunately for me that falls into the admin bracket, and I'm not great at that. All right, so then we've got one from, I think it's Zyro. If you come from a non-English speaking country, do the documents have to be translated by an official translator, or can it be done by me? So as far as I know, Saro, and you can check this out, it has to be done by an official translator. When I've sent documents over to Italy, for example, it had to be done by an official translator. So I think that any anything official in terms of visa and job application, yes, would most likely have to be done by an official translator. See what you can maybe translate yourself so you can save a bit of money there. But yes, a few of them would have to be done in an official capacity. And of course, yes, that is a bit of a cost in most cases. Right, so we have another question. How do we get teacher and or student opinion of schools in various countries? Are there websites, and how trusted are the reviews on the school's direct websites? So on our site, we've got a few links to various sites that post reviews and so on, do articles on various schools and various countries and destinations. Have a look. I go into, I think it's goabroad.com. There are a few like those, and there are some reviews on there. And yeah, I know that it's a difficult one because you're wondering as to which reviews are real and which are not. But there are various sites where you can particularly see people sending reviews in on many different places and not one particular place. And then those reviews tend to be a little bit more honest and a little bit more substantial and a bit more explanatory. So there are a few sites out there, they are reputable. If, however, you've got any questions and you're doubting any of this, please send us a little note on tutor support and we can look into it for you. Of course, we cannot say, yes, this is a good school to apply to, or that's a bad school, but we can at least tell you, yes, the site that you're on is reputable, as we've worked with it before. But I've explored sites like Go Abroad. I think there's one called Travel Overseas. I'm not sure. I can't remember right now. But yes, there are some sites where it's more general travel TEFL site. And on there, students will post different reviews based on schools and based on experiences of different schools that they've worked at. All right. Okay, and then we've got another interesting question here. Which countries are the most popular destinations for EFL teaching? I just did a radio interview on this the other day. And right now, there are so many countries that are welcoming English teachers. Despite China reforming their English teaching model, there's still welcoming English teachers from abroad. South Korea, lots and lots of teachers are going to South Korea. Vietnam has become a really, really popular destination for teachers. Thailand too. And then in South America as well, Brazil is a huge market for not only South African teachers, for American teachers, for teachers from all over the world. If you think about it, I did a little bit of research there, and I might be wrong, but I can never remember the number. But only 1 or 5% of the country, Brazil, speaks English. So there's a huge market for teachers right now, and many teachers are going over there. And then, of course, there's Europe. Where lots of teachers are exploring Eastern European countries and finding amazing opportunities over there. And some people might say, well, I want to go to the obvious places. I want to go to the Italies and I want to go to Germany and Austria. But Eastern Europe is a great place to work because, yes, you earn well and you're able to use it as a base to sightsee and visit so many other amazing countries also. So right now, Nicholas, to answer your question, good grief, where is not a good place to go? There are many, many amazing countries that are just so open to welcoming English teachers. All right, so a great question here. What are some of the factors that I need to consider that, yeah, if you are looking at an online teaching career? Can you please talk a little bit about the red flags for identifying any fraudulent companies? So, Asher, I've got some good news for you. We've got a webinar particularly two, in fact, dedicated to these two issues. You gave two issues in your question, and that's factors to consider for online teaching. That on its own is a very, very broad question because there are lots to consider, but there are so many perks. And then also fraudulent companies. We've got an entire webinar dedicated just to scams, sadly, right? So please do yourself a favor. They're already on our channel and you'll be able to access them. Watch them. They're really, really useful. When it comes to online teaching, it's something that's very close to my heart because that's how I started my career. I got my first online teaching job with zero experience. And what is so beautiful about lots and lots of online schools is that they're willing to give teachers with very little or no experience at all a job. So that's how I started. I started with an online school, paid very, very little, and then obviously I was happy just to have the experience and I built my CV in that way. So when it comes to online teaching, they're open to employing teachers with very little experience. And remember, every little bit of experience counts, even if it's just tutoring someone's kid in your neighborhood or volunteering, it all counts. But online teaching really helps you get your foot in there because when you've taught online, schools, physical schools, are a bit more open to giving you a chance with very little experience because you've had that interaction with students. There are lots and lots of companies, there are lots of platforms. Research a few of them. It's very normal to make a video beforehand. And it's very normal for them also to offer some kind of training and offer you a syllabus. It might also just be a platform where you're able to put your portfolio, your CV, and a welcome video, and that's an entirely different situation, but that's a route a lot of teachers go. When it comes to red flags, I'm going to suggest you watch the webinar because it's got lots and lots of useful information about what to look out for, what to be vigilant of, because of course with all these amazing things out there, yeah, unfortunately there are a few fraudulent companies and bad experiences that students might have had. So lots and lots of useful information in that webinar. I think you should watch it. All right. Oh, I like this question. Right. So Cole asks, is it possible to move overseas but teach online? Yes, it is. You become sort of like a digital nomad, if you like. And again, just check on the tax situation, whether your tax is residency based or what it is. But this is just such an amazing window for so many teachers to be able to teach online from anywhere in the world. So if you're living somewhere else for a few months and you want to teach online, this is an opportunity for you. I highly recommend it. So, a lot of our teachers are currently doing that. I do that from time to time, and I love that because I get to sightsee, I get to enjoy the new country, I get to explore different things while earning money, while paying my bills, and while not having, people running off to me looking for bills to be paid. So that is really, really something that is amazing. Please have a look. We've just recently released an article or blog about this on our site, and it is an amazing option for you, Cole. So please have a look because so many people are going that way right now. All right, so nice question here from Paul. Thank you very much. Is teaching required in schools only, or are there private tutoring jobs available? So, of course, there are both. I will say that when a job is advertised online, any kind of job, it is usually at some kind of school or some kind of organization where you will become a member of staff or a face on the platform. But of course, there are also private tutoring jobs available. And some of these platforms, Paul, offer you both options. So you can put your portfolio on this platform and you can say, I do group classes and I also do one-on-one. So for me, I do a little bit of both. I teach group classes and I do private tutoring. I don't work for a particular school. I basically just put my details on a few relevant sites, have a look on our site and on our jobs board, and also in the prospectus, you'll be able to find some good platforms there, and you'll be able to put your portfolio, your CV, and you'll either attract people that are interested in a group class or people that are interested in one-on-one. So at the moment for me, not working with a school, most of my students are one-on-one and it's lovely. I create the program for them and we go through our lessons. They pay for 10 or 20 lessons per time, payment arrives, and then we start the lessons. Paul, remember that. If you're tutoring privately, payment first. If it's face to face, if you're working in a country and it's face to face, of course, just make sure that you are able and legal to work in that country. If it's in your own country and you're tutoring privately, remember a lot of people go to other countries to learn English. So very often, because South Africa particularly is also seen as an English learning destination, we often have students who come to our country to learn English, and they either seek out a group class, a school, or a private teacher. And that's where we come in. So it's absolutely an option for you if you prefer that one-on-one. And Paul, many, many teachers do. All right. So another question from Paul, sorry, Paul, Lynn Marie. The first name that comes up is Paul. I'm so sorry about that. And if I don't see Lynn Marie, I just sorry about that. So, who pays for the translator service? This again is in the contract. So, if you are applying to a school, they might pay for all these perks. If not, then that is something that would be to your own cost. And it doesn't hurt doing it then because of course you'll be using these documents maybe for more than one application, so it just depends. It could be included in the agency's fee, it could be included in your employer's fee, or you'd have to pay for it yourself. This does unfortunately differ quite vastly from one place to another. All right. And then another question here, do agencies help with only language schools or all types of schools? I hold a teaching degree and I'm open to public and private schools. They do absolutely help with all sorts of schools because it depends on what you can do, what qualifications you have, and of course then they will offer you placements where you're that you're suitable for. So yeah, Emma, if you've got the relevant degree to work at an academic institution like a primary school or a high school, then yes, absolutely, your agency can place you there. And remember that quite a lot of schools, particularly international schools, have got little TEFL departments. Colleges have got TEFL departments. Universities have TEFL departments. And then a teacher like yourself with an extra teaching degree might have even more option when it comes to that sort of thing because they might be able to place you for more than one thing. So yeah, absolutely they do. The important thing is to let them know that you have this qualification straight up so that they can actually find positions where both those qualifications would come in handy. All right. All right. So another question here, what about the Latin American region? And I think, how is it for teaching? So as mentioned earlier, yes, there are lots and lots of job opportunities in North and South America. And I think that it's something to explore. It's something that I would like to explore a little bit further. And there are lots of countries that offer packages for teachers. There is a huge TEFL need. The pay is decent, and of course, the sightseeing is amazing. So I have colleagues that are over in South America, and they absolutely love it. Not only are the teaching conditions quite nice, but also the people are super friendly and very, very open to helping you when it comes to your sightseeing and seeing new things and helping you find a new apartment, that sort of thing. So yes, there are positions out there and the working conditions are quite good. So absolutely, if that's your thing, I would definitely have a look on our jobs board and see if there are any positions out there in South America that you're open to. Absolutely. All right. So please, yes, if there are any other questions that you would need to ask, put them into the section now, and I'll be able to assist if I know the answer. If not, and if you find that your question has not been answered today, please do send it to tutor support because we are a few tutors that man that department and will be able to definitely assist you if I did not cover everything that you're looking for today. All right, I'm going through the former questions to see if I missed anything. And please, yes, put your questions in the chat function. Yeah, so there's another question here. Have the conditions to work in the UK changed since Brexit? I have no idea, but I will absolutely try to find out for you. So, Sarah, if you've got time, please send this question to our tutor support, and I will make sure that one of my colleagues from the UK absolutely gets back to you. So please, please, please send this question to tutor support. All right. And then another question here from Elena. Where can we find the prospectus you were talking about earlier? On our website. I literally went onto the website just a few days ago prior to a radio interview just to have the prospectus in front of me because it's loaded with so much information. So, Elena, go onto the website. You'll be able to find the prospectus with no problem at all. And it is really, really filled with such useful information. And if for those of you who are still wondering, where to go. When I do my weekend courses, that's very often my little icebreaker. Where do you want to go? Because I always find there are a couple of things that really get people chatting, and that's food and travel. And since we're not really, food isn't really the topic of the weekend course, but travel is, it's very often a nice question to ask. And what I find is that a lot of people still don't know where they want to go. So the prospectus for me actually gives that little bit of direction. It might help you decide that this is at least the continent I want to go to or the country I want to go to. And then, of course, you narrow the search down as you find out more about that particular place. So please have a look at the prospectus. It helps me. So I'm pretty sure it'll give you loads and loads of information to help you too. All right. And then I've got a question here about the jobs board. After finishing the TEFL course at the TEFL Academy, can I only consult the TEFL Academy's jobs board or can I use other companies' jobs boards too? Oh no, you need to search. You need to find out various job platforms and job sites that might be useful for you. Absolutely. The jobs board that we have is there for you. It's packed with loads and loads of links and useful companies and organizations that you can apply to. But of course, do explore other job sites as well. Put your name on various platforms for you to get contacted by prospective clients, but absolutely use ours as a jumping off point and then see what's out there. There are loads and loads of job opportunities out there, and you might just find it on a different one. But as a TEFL Academy student, you do have access to our jobs board. Great place to start. All right. So also, Likeleko as a question. I have seen TEFL internship opportunities. When does one qualify for such? As I understand, you do not need to have completed your TEFL certificate to apply. So, Likeleko, I'm going to suggest exactly the same for you. In the prospectus, you will find loads of information about our internship opportunities, our outreach, all those amazing things that the TEFL Academy is doing as well to help and to improve the lives and the education of others out there. So please have a look because that's where I found the information related to our internship and outreach programs. So please have a look as soon as you can. Lynn Marie, thank you for putting your name here this time. I would have called you Paul again. Would the contract cover leave or can we accumulate leave for family emergencies or bereavement leave? So as mentioned earlier, when you receive your contract from whatever company you've applied to, they will stipulate this. And unfortunately, for me to tell you at this point that that's how it is, and that's what they do, and that's the leave they offer, not going to be fair because it might differ from one place to the next. But this will be specified in the contract. If you're questioning anything, please have someone who's got a bit of a critical or legal eye have a look at the contract, but it will absolutely be stipulated in the contract for you. Because I think your question is valid. It's extremely important. You're in another country. You might have to go home um, for whatever reason or for whatever situation. And of course, yes, you want to know your legal rights. So it's going to be covered in your contract. And if it isn't, do ask questions. All right. So our jobs board, is available for the 6 months. But if you go onto the website, you're also going to find a link to jobs, whether you're enrolled or not. So you will have access to lots and lots of information and links. And of course, you're going to be saving those links on your laptop or on your computer or on your device. So you'll be able to access them and look and see if they've updated any of the job availability or the job opportunities. So yes, even if you might lose access to the actual course material, we do have jobs advertised on our general site that you can access at any point. And then also over and above that, as mentioned earlier, save those useful links, particularly jobs sites that you like, that you can relate to, that you find useful information on. You can absolutely still access those after the course. All right. All right, we have another question. Can we, from Hirinda, hello, can we contact somebody from the organization to take advice after the TEFL course is over related to jobs later? So, of course, we're available for you to email our student services department, hello at the teflacademy.com. And yeah, ask your questions. Just because you finished your course, we're not going to not assist, and we're not going to ignore you just because you're not officially a student anymore. We've set you on this journey. So if there's any kind of help we can give you afterwards, or just to clarify something for you, yes, please do email us. We're available and we can try to help. If the person that you're in contact with doesn't know the answer to your question, we've got a whole department who can assist. So absolutely send us your questions. I think it's because the world of TEFL, once we set you free and we set you out there and we send you off, yeah, it's a whole other world that you're stepping into, and potentially another world in another country. So yeah, absolutely, there you'll have lots of questions, and you're more than welcome to revisit these webinars. They're on the YouTube channel, and you're also welcome to answer your question, to ask any questions at Tutor Support. All right, and you're absolutely welcome. So I think I've got time for one or two more questions. So if you've got any questions, now is the time to put them in the chat on the side of your screen. And yeah, I think that if I look at the time, we have time for just about one or two questions. I am still going through the older questions to see if I've missed anything. Someone mentioned culture earlier, and also, yeah, for me, it is something very important to explore and research before you go abroad. The culture, the religious aspect, what the expectations are over there. There are many, many amazing packages for teachers in various countries, but I think the important thing to do is just as much as you're considering the destination and the weather and the food, you've also got to really, really get to know the culture and embrace what's going on there. If you've chosen this country and you're dedicated to go to this country for a while, embrace what's happening. Ask questions and enjoy the process. They're learning from you as the teacher, but you're also learning from your students, and you're learning from this amazing place that you've chosen to go to. So when it comes to cultural aspects, research all you need to know before you go overseas. And then, of course, once you're there, just embrace and learn, ask questions, questions, get integrated, and enjoy the process. It is ever so amazing. All right, so if we don't have any other questions, we can certainly round up here and we can absolutely set you off to enjoy the rest of your weekend. So I think something important that we're going to be doing is also the survey. I'm going to be putting the survey into the chat right now. Of course, you do not need to answer the survey absolutely immediately, but I think that it is quite important for you to tell us what you thought about today's webinar and just a few ideas. A lot of our students write in and say, hey, what about a webinar on this? What about a webinar on that? If we haven't done a webinar on the topic that you've suggested, we will certainly look into it. So putting the survey link in the chat right now, and when you have a sec, please do it. So I would like to thank you for attending today. Thank you very much for listening to me and for asking me all your amazing questions. As mentioned, if I couldn't get to absolutely every question, send your question to the tutor support platform and we can certainly help you. And also just a reminder that this webinar will be available in a few days and you can rewatch as many times. Also, we will be hosting a brand new webinar next week, something very interesting. So watch this space. So please join. Come and listen and ask all those amazing questions. All right. And then to those of you who have asked questions and said thank you, you're absolutely welcome. And I really, really hope to see you next time. Right. So I will be putting the survey up on the screen also, just in case you didn't have it in the chat. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will see you next time.